going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Rick Del Santo podcast. I am, of course, Rick Del Santo. Who else would I be hosting this show? But we have a very special guest here today, uh, podcaster, radio host, and now he can add author to that ever-growing list of awesome things he's doing in the world of professional wrestling. And his podcast is not like any others. Okay, let's talk here with host of Wrestling with Heart and Stanley Karr.
Hey, Rick. Good to be back on the show. I believe this is my third appearance, and now
Yes.
I can finally say I'm a published author, so glad to be here.
That's awesome. So we're gonna dive deep into the book, I guess you could say, because I got a list here of all the guests that not all the guests on your podcast, but you've interviewed so many people over the years, and I've been following the podcast since its inception, I believe. And now you took some of those interviews and put them into print form into a book, which to me is awesome. So congratulations on your new
Thank
book.
you.
And it just came out, I believe, April 1st, correct?
Yeah, just came out April 1st.
Awesome. So now why don't you refresh people's memories here with Wrestling with Heart and tell everybody what the premise is of that show, because it's not like any other. It's a very interesting podcast. I do say so myself.
Well, coming from a radio background, I had been doing a lot of music programming, doing the Piano Men for almost 10 years on a local community low power station in my home of Nashville, Tennessee, and been doing some college radio as well, playing music, avid fan of wrestling, and podcasts became such a huge deal around. I mean, they'd been a big deal for a while since they started up, I believe, in the early 2000s, but it was really around the mid to late 2010s when I feel like they really started taking off. And so I knew about podcasting, and I was told and suggested by a bunch of people, you really should do a podcast. Have you ever thought about doing a podcast before? And I was like, well, I'll look into it. So I always knew in the back of my mind I was going to do one. And being a wrestling fan, I wanted to kind of get into, take my own kind of whack at doing a wrestling radio show or wrestling podcast in some form or facet. It wasn't until 2022 when I had just attended my first WrestleMania in Dallas, Texas. It was WrestleMania 38 when Stone Cold Steve Austin returned to the ring for the first time in nearly 20 years.
Awesome.
And I had also attended that SummerSlam in Nashville later that year, where Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns wrestled at Nissan Stadium. And so at the same time, I was working at a community college where I decided to take a podcast class because I was like, this is pretty cool. This is kind of where things are heading now in the media landscape. So why not take a stab at doing a podcast? And so I thought to myself, I kind of want to aim for something a little different here, not do a music show. I've been doing music shows for years. I think this is a good time, having gone to WrestleMania and SummerSlam, being a WWE, being an AEW fan for a while, and really getting back into wrestling. I'd always been a wrestling fan, but I think the last couple of years with COVID and the pandemic, I really started getting into it again. And I was like, this is the perfect time to do a wrestling podcast. So if I'm going to do a wrestling podcast, and you and I both know that there are a plethora of incredible wrestling podcasts, lots of great content out there, including yours, of course. So, of course, you're welcome. And so if I'm going to do a wrestling podcast, I got to choose something different, a little different approach. And so I was really surprised to find out that there really weren't a lot of podcasts talking about charity work and the human side of the business, the good side of the business, because you always hear about the negatives. You always hear about the dark side of the rings, the steroid, drug addictions, alcohol, like all this negativity, right? When it comes to people in the wrestling business, young people, people dying too young, and not enough stuff about what these people actually do to help others outside of the wrestling business. So in my head, I go, this is kind of a cool idea to do a show about this. And so Wrestling with Heart was born.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And now, I know we have sort of similar backgrounds. I think you have a way more experience than I do as far as like actual radio. I did a tiny bit of radio in prior to COVID, probably 2015. So that was about a good 5 years before COVID really took off. Um, so I did radio for a little bit, and then I just decided randomly. Now it's been 6 years since I've doing podcasts, so I just kind of like, oh, I want to get back into it, and I was going to do a music-based podcast, and then I said, oh, forget this. And of course, I think I've told the story a million times, probably on your show as well. I ran into Paul Roma, and that's how I ended up deciding to do uh, a wrestling podcast. So at that time, wrestling podcasts were not what they are today. Now there's like a million wrestling podcasts, and it's like everybody and their mother's got a podcast. So it's really hard to differentiate from some of these guys because whether how many guys are going to be talking about Monday Night Raw on a Tuesday morning or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's really hard to gather attention. I know that with every podcast that's born, it kind of some of the other podcasts kind of suffer a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's like people are always going for newer stuff. So yeah. So and I got to tell you that I'm actually going to. I'll announce this here in the show. I will be getting back into actual radio. So I've actually been attending Connecticut School of Broadcasting for the past few months. So I'm refreshing my memory on how to sit back there and behind the booth and have some fun with the radio on the music side. Of course, I'm not interested in sitting there talking about sports, but podcasting, like you said, it's kind of like the future of radio because how many people really listen to terrestrial radio anymore? I know the numbers have suffered tremendously. I don't know, do you listen to FM radio at all these days or anything that's outside of your wheelhouse?
I do. I think that radio is still alive and well in the fact that you're always going to have that localism, that flavor of people are going to want to know about what's going on in their community, in their area, in their town. And you can't always get it from your apps or some streaming platform. You want to be able to have that connection. And I
Hmm.
think that you can still have that. So I believe radio and podcasting can work hand in hand with each other.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of times, say the morning radio shows that are on regular radio, FM radio, and stuff like that, they'll upload them later in the day as a podcast as well for people on demand, whether it be on the website, whether it be Apple, Spotify, stuff like that. So I find that it's kind of like they're double dipping in a way, getting it out to even more people. And today, radio is streaming on. There's several internet apps where you can get I can get your station, for instance, whatever show you're on, at on TuneIn. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So that is something that's changed the game for modern radio as well.
It definitely has. It's just technology has advanced so much, and we're just having to catch up to it, and we're having to compete with it in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been listening to more FM radio since kind of diving into the world of radio broadcasting. And it's like I pay more attention to how things are done. I don't know if you pay it when you listen to radio, if because you're involved, that now you pay, oh, that could have been a little bit better. The cuts could have been a little bit better, anything like that. So it's kind of interesting. So that how somebody that's messing with the equipment and learning and stuff like that can change. You know what I mean? Like how they look at radio.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So of course you started that podcast. You've interviewed many, many legends and up and coming wrestlers. You're actually involved in wrestling as well. Were you a ring announcer or commentator?
I've been doing some ring announcing for a local promotion here in the Nashville area called Championship Honor Wrestling, CHW, over in Ashland City. And they've now been doing some shows out in Springfield, Tennessee. So I've been there for a little bit. And I've also had the chance to do a little bit of partnering a little bit with Pro Wrestling Symphony out in East Nashville. And they've got some pretty good wrestlers there as well. Colby Carter is the current champion. We've actually got their events coming up on May the 2nd at the East Side Bowl. So I'm going to be there, a vendor, if you will, kind of like selling some books and just talking with the people that come on by to the show and meet so many wrestling fans.
Yeah, that's awesome. You've also have been a promotional like madman, I guess should say, in a good way, in a good way. So when your podcast drops, like you are promoting it like crazy, and you've done many, many conventions, and not the small conventions. You've been doing some of the bigger conventions out there in your area, and was it North Carolina, I believe? Did you go to Carolina?
Yes, WrestleCade.
Yeah, and so how has that garnered you more attention in that has that gotten you more attention? I'm sorry, running and doing that and meeting new people there and stuff like that.
I think the more opportunities you can get to go out to places and meet people, the more your circle expands. And so networking is always key. And I've had the great fortunes of meeting so many different people, both in the business and fans, people that are just hearing about the show that want to tune in and check it out, potential guests on the show, future guests, wrestlers that want to come on and when I tell them about the show, they're very interested. They want to check it out. They want to be on it, and
Hmm.
I've had the great fortunes of networking with so many different personnel backstage as well.
Oh wow, cool. So you've gotten attention or got to meet many, people at the events and hook up with them and then talk to them later for the show.
Yeah, I've been able to just go out there, rub shoulders, put some feelers out, and that's just really the name of the game. It's all about networking.
All right. Now I'm looking at the list here. I have a list here and of some great people that are in your book. Now, of course, I've seen your, the podcast and listened to it, and you have so many more that obviously didn't make it to this book. You can only fit so much in the book at one point, but this is considered volume one.
Yes.
Okay, so that means that there's more volumes to come. That's exciting for the fans and for you, obviously. So, what's the reaction been so far to the book? Has it been a positive reaction?
Yeah, I mean, so far people have been interested. I've had wrestlers that are looking forward to reading it. I've had a lot of people wish me well and congratulated me the success of the release. I've got some book signings locally coming up. I'm going to be involved with. I just got one scheduled for the 25th out in Nashville at the Half Price Bookstore, and I've got one coming up in May, May 28th at Landmark Booksellers in Franklin, Tennessee. So I'm trying to get my name out there and hopefully start doing some signings locally and eventually making my way to the convention circuit. So hopefully by later this fall for WrestleCade, I can sell some books there.
Awesome, awesome. So it's called Wrestling with Cause, and it's you're taking some of the legends that you've interviewed and you put them into print. And now, I mean, this is like a who's who of professional wrestling. It really is. I'm looking at the list. Al Snow, obviously a legend, OVW owner. Jake the Snake Roberts. I didn't even know you interviewed Jake. So I usually see exactly who you're interviewing through the Facebook post. And so, what was it like dealing with Jake and interviewing him?
Oh man, he was great to speak with. We talked about what he was able to do inside the squared circle with his career, and then I think his story outside of the ring is just so inspiring because it took him so long to overcome his demons and challenges with alcohol addiction. Now he's being a motivational speaker, speaking to church groups, youth groups, people that are going through a struggle, and so he's out there making a difference out there and being able to talk to people. Uh, I think DDP was very helpful with being able to kind of steer Jake in the right direction and lead him to where he is now, just living a clean lifestyle.
Right, right. Did you ever see the documentary that he did when TDP helped him?
Yes, it was very well done.
It's
Very
in,
well done.
yeah, it was an incredible documentary. It's a very emotional documentary as well. Like my wife and I watched it, and she's normally She loves documentaries, not so much wrestling, but like if it involves like old school 80s wrestlers that she grew up with, like she will sit there and watch it. And we had a good time watching it, like because it's a kind of like a roller coaster in a way, you know what I mean? Because you could see the struggles in the movie, in the documentary rather, that he has trying to go through his day-to-day life recovering and trying to struggle to not do this stuff. But DDP was a very big help, and I thought the documentary is very well done.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah. And you got a bunch of guests. Now I'm was amazed because you got a bunch of guests that, you don't normally see on podcasts, but you got them, you booked them, which is good. That's always good to, you make how important is networking with podcasting and in wrestling in general, because it really is important to when you network and you got people putting in the good word for you and stuff like that when it comes to especially podcasting. Some people just don't want to be part of a podcast. I've experienced that myself.
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about, there's so much content out there today, and you really have to find ways to stand out, and you really have to grow your following. So it's about going through the email list, going on social media. I think social media for networking is very important to be able,
Right.
especially if you're trying to make it in entertainment, you have to be able to have such a presence, an established one, and from there you can basically just reach anybody you want to as far as guests are concerned. And so it took me, emailing people, writing people on Facebook or Instagram, and just really trying to put the word out. And it's, mutual friends or another thing too. You just
Yes.
you have to be able to find ways of going through zigzag almost and just figure out, through different avenues of trying to reach these people, because it's very, very difficult, but it's not impossible. It's just, you got to do the legwork, you got to put in the work.
Yes. And part of for people that are listening that, maybe they don't run a podcast or maybe they're interested in running a podcast, but getting guests, as we both just discussed, it's not an easy thing. I know sometimes in my earlier days, people were like, no, or they would just ignore you. That's something that kind of kills a little bit when they don't even bother to respond. So I was like, a simple no, thank you. You know what I'm saying? But even if, and I've spoken to some, wrestlers that were pretty big legends and stuff like that, but it's kind of disheartening. But don't even worry about that part because there's always people that are going to say yes. But how important is it to be, you have to construct a professional email or Facebook message, Twitter message, whatever. How important do you think that is? Because it's like you don't want to come off kind of sounding like an idiot or you don't even know anything about their career, right?
Yeah, I just put together a well written email message or social media message explaining who you are and what your purpose is for the podcast, and leave whatever kind of information like links.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my YouTube link. Here's my Facebook link. Here's my Apple link. I mean, just, you have to be able to say, like, these are the people we've had on the show so far in the past.
Yes,
Check out
provide
this episode.
references and yeah, provide references. You can provide a list of the people that you've had on so that they know that how serious, your show is, I guess you can say.
And you always want to follow up with them too in case they don't get the first email.
Yes, absolutely. You know, let's see. You've had other guests that I've never really seen on a podcast. Tito Santana, for one. This guy was like my favorite wrestler growing up, Tito Santana in the 1980s. So, what was your reaction when you got to interview him and he said yes to interviewing you?
Oh, that was a fun interview. He's, as you know, he's very old school. So he was one of the first, I feel like, guys to come over from the AWA to the WWE, WWF
Right.
in the 80s. And he was, I believe he wrestled and competed in the first 8 WrestleManias. Him and Hogan were like the two originals that wrestled all the first 8 Manias. So he wasn't, like, I believe he mentioned to me, he wasn't a fan growing up, or he didn't know about it until he got recruited. And
Mhm.
so after training and getting the reps in. He comes to WWE. He's wrestling at the first WrestleMania. He's winning championships, and he became a school teacher after his career had ended in the wrestling business. And how he was able to make such a difference with teaching kids. He was telling me a story, and I put it in the book about he was a Spanish teacher, and so he always tried to find ways to make Spanish easy to learn and fun to learn for the kids. And so over the years, he'd see some of his former students at the grocery store or different places around his neighborhood, and they'd go right up to him and thank him for helping them and being there for them. And that meant a lot to him.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Another one, somebody I loved growing up is Nikita Koloff. Now, you don't see a lot of interviews with him. It's always what you know. How was Nikita to interview? Because he seems like a really cool dude. I speak kind of frequently with Vladimir, who's currently on the tour with Nikita, the Koloff reunion tour, and he speaks very highly of Nikita all the time. And I've seen videos of them together on social media, but you don't see a lot of interviews of Nikita going out there. And how important is it getting kind of like I guess a rare interview for your show to garner to get that like attention on you? It's kind of, with somebody like Nikita, Tito, you even have Missy Hyatt here, and there's another one that I'm going to mention pretty soon that, you know, it's kind of important because some of these people, they might have some sort of social media presence, but they don't do interviews often, probably rarely, if ever. But how important is that to your show, to a show that, to get these kind of interviews?
You want to bring on a lot of heavy hitters to get eyes on the product, to get eyes on the podcast. And
Yep.
someone like Nikita was just a pleasure to speak with because he was a bodybuilder, he played football, and eventually he also got recruited to join the ranks of pro wrestling. And so working in the NWA and early WCW, like that whole like mid to late 80s was a hotbed for wrestling during that time in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. So like that whole period, he enjoyed being a heel. He enjoyed being the bad guy. And he just had so much fun traveling with these guys and learning from Don Kernodle and all these other people back in the day. So he was fun to talk with, and he's got a ministry that he does. He's working with called Man Camp, and I believe it's every summer. I believe they do a thing where, like, he opens it up to like single men, single dads, fathers, husbands, and like they go on like this spiritual journey. And so I think he also did something with Lex Luger at one point too. So both of them kind of work together on different projects. And so he enjoys helping people and giving back, and he's trying to be someone to, that a figure that people can look up to.
Yeah. Speaking of Lex, I believe that he is also a product of DDP, is he not? And that helped him
I
able to
think
walk
so.
again. Yeah, I believe so. And was it a year ago maybe that he was able to walk again for the first time in many
Yeah.
years? And man, that right there is awesome. And he's a guy that's completely changed since his years in professional wrestling because I can tell a story.
Yes.
So my mom met him probably when he was going through his WWF run. My mom used to work for the Special Olympics every year through a catering service that she worked for. And they used to be hosted in New Haven, Connecticut, where we're from. And, they had the Lex Express. That was the Lex Express tour that year. And he was, according to her, he was the most unfriendly person at that time period. Now, mind you, this is what, 93, 94, something like that, right? So, and but that's probably the one of the heights of his popularities, you know what I mean, at that time period. But I got to meet him about 3 4 years ago, and he was a completely humble human being, you know what I mean. So after all the struggles and changes in his life, in finding God, he has been humbled. So
Yeah.
but I've heard that those kind of stories about him in the um, with the arrogance and kind of just not being a friendly person back in the day from several people. So, but my mom knew I was a huge wrestling fan, so she knew who Lex Luger was. So, you know, I just thought that was kind of a funny story. I was like, huh, that's
Yeah, it's
surprising.
crazy.
Yeah, but it's bless him, dude. Like seriously though, for
Mhm.
being able to find God and come around and being able to walk again, dude. Like seriously, that's awesome. Seriously.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, okay. So this one I was really interested in. And when I saw that you got this guy, I was like, holy crap. I was like, I haven't heard of this guy since probably early 2000s. Lash LaRue. How did you get in touch with Lash LaRue? Seriously.
Just
I
everything's about timing.
Yeah, I couldn't even find him on social media, even whether his shoot name or whatever. I couldn't. So
Yeah,
maybe
it was
I'm
all about timing.
yeah.
I got his email here. If I can pass it along later on if you wanted to get in touch with him. But yeah, it's just timing's everything. His email, I just contacted him, and eventually, we were able to schedule something. And he's also another one that's very big on like working in the ministry and being helping out at his church and doing youth groups and things like that. So he's very big on community activities and community service.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. How did you choose like the interviews that you had? Because you've done hundreds of episodes. How many episodes have you had now? What are you reaching?
We're close to 300. We're closing in on 300 at the time of this podcast here. And so what I did was I had contacted people that I felt, first of all, like I said earlier, you got to get people, big stars that'll get eyes on the product, get eyes on the book. So I contacted as many people as I possibly could, that were interested in doing the book, and a lot of them, surprisingly, if not most of them, said yes. And
Right.
so there were a few that um, I couldn't. I tried to hear from some of the people I contacted at first, um, and we'll see. Hopefully if the volume one does well, we'll do a volume two, and we can put them in. But the people that got back to me were very interested in being in the book. So
Right.
so after a couple of run throughs and rounds of just contacting people, I just started putting together a collection of excerpts of interviews plus original writing, kind of a narrative format of text, accompanied by the excerpts from the interviews.
Right. Okay. That's awesome. So it was kind of like you going through the list, you trying to be like, this guy will fit good in here. Because it's a mix of legends and then there's some I don't want to say not legends, but some maybe like I
Up
guess
and
there's a few
comers.
yeah, up and comers. There's some independent stars in the book, that have been around for a few years and kind of, well known like SoCal Val and stuff like that. And obviously you have Ricky Morton, who's an absolute legend. That guy, I love watching Ricky Morton. Even to this day, Ricky Morton's out there killing it. So
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to meet him, but you definitely have like a really like a hot list here of like great, legendary talent and then mixed in a few others here. So that'll give them exposure as well. So people might be interested in checking them out after reading, just going through the book of legends and reading some of these other people. So um yeah, that's really cool too.
Yeah, and like I said, it just gets eyes on the book and generates interest, and I hope people are able to take away the incredible things that these people are doing to serve their community and make a difference and give back.
Right, right. Where can anybody buy the book? Where's it available
Well,
for the to purchase?
the book is available on Amazon as a paperback. It's $15.
Good price.
Thank
Price.
you. At some point, maybe we'll do a Kindle version. I just wanted to make the book available in the best format, easiest format possible. So you can order it there. Like I said, I've got a couple of local book signings, but eventually the goal is to do more, and grow and expand. So hopefully we can get some signings in the New England area at some point, maybe for a convention. And so hopefully we get more awareness, and we want this thing to take off. So if the book does really well, yeah, we'll shoot for a volume 2.
Awesome. So signed copies, are they able to reach out to you, or is it just through Amazon?
Uh,
Do you have books available through you?
you can message me. We can talk about how we can go forward with that if you're interested in getting a signed copy. But yeah, I'm happy to sign some books for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Is there anything else you have coming up? Interviews, wrestling appearances, convention appearances, anything on the table for the calendar?
Well, as I said earlier, I've got the book signings, the 2 book signings locally. I'm going to be at Pro Wrestling Symphony May 2nd at the East Side Bowl. Check that out. They've got incredible talent there. If you're really into independent wrestling, this is one of the hottest companies in town. They just started, I believe, a year ago.
Okay.
So if you love wrestling and music, they've got music playing at this show. They've got artists that I believe it's like 3 sets during matches. So it's like
Okay.
it's really incredible. So
Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out. They're
yeah, yeah.
online. Yeah.
So I'll be there. I've got signings, and that's it for the immediate future. Like I said, hopefully November WrestleCade we'll be back there. We'll get some more books out and just spread the word.
Absolutely, man. Stan, thank you so much for coming on the show again, and look forward to talking to you again, and of course, getting my copy of Wrestling with Cause.
Yes, absolutely. Wrestling with Heart presents Champions for a Cause, now available on Amazon and soon to a bookstore near you.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you.